Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zen and Fanfics. Today we are featuring What If Genius Deku Had AI Harem? The story is written by Springtrap 212332 on Wattpad. Before we start, please like and subscribe for more content. Now let's dive into the story. I was always aware of my surroundings, even in the WMB. Looking back on those days when I was a baby, I'm surprised nobody ever noticed my genius. But then again, I was surrounded by kids who never cared unless it was to hurt me. See, I'm a genius beyond geniuses. A savant. Not a normal savant, though. I've never suffered any physical or mental inability to do anything. But I have the remarkable ability to be able to feel items and, though touch, figure out their internal components down to the nanometer. Along with that comes mathematical formula and even programming data. Though it took till I was 2 to be able to program a computer and learn the proper programming formulae. After that, you'd rarely find me not on some device of some kind, hacking into its source data code and programs to learn how it works, why it works, and what makes it better. It took me a short year to learn everything I felt I needed for the short term, at which point I turned to engineering, mechanics, and mathematics. I made my first engine at 4. By 5, I'd created a go-kart, and then I got the news I was Quirkless. Then Mom had the genius idea to tell my school, so they could make sure I wasn't mistreated for my disability. The teachers immediately outed me and non-verbally declared open season on me. The 2 years of me being 5 and 6 weren't much trouble, verbal and emotional abuse. Only when we got into the more serious classes and workload did everyone notice something strange. I never got under 98% on any tests. I always had the top score, just behind Bakugo. Obviously, with how everyone worshipped my ex-brother and all, but BLD, they saw my getting scores up near his as if I was insulting him, rather than I just trying to get God grades. That's when the physical abuse and intimidation started. By this time, I'd already started weak exercises, mindful that excess exercise can stunt my physical growth. So I could easily outrun the bullies who usually slacked off in gym. Not the older class students, though it was a near thing. One had a speed quirk, weak, doubles his top speed. He usually snatched me up before I could tell they were after me. Then they'd wail on me, chest, gut, and flipping me over to hit my spin a few times. While it was highly durable since I was only 6 and 7 at the time, I did get shooting pains throughout my body. Any normal kid would have told his parents. Any heavy bully victim would not. I didn't tell my mother because she was always out or treating me like glass before forgetting about me. Dad, however, flashback, you're being bullied by your upperclassmen? Dad asked, how up are we talking here? Everyone, because you don't have a quirk. He asked softly and I nod, stifling a sniffle. Yeah, why can't they see I'm smart? They do, but I think it scares them, Dad said softly. Hey, think you can keep a secret? MHM. I nod, excited. Dad never tells me secrets. All right. He opened his mouth and reached his fingers back into his throat. After a few minutes, he pulled out a device of some kind with 2 canisters. This is my so-called fire breath quirk, kiddo. I'm a savant, like you. Our family line's been full of us. But we've never suffered the consequences of savant syndrome. I made this when I was 5, and my quirk was registered as fire breath. I think our brain sacrifices the quirk potential for enhancing our minds. I blinked a few times, knocked off guard by this curveball. So, if I made myself a device I can play off as a quirk I could fit in, I ask, mind already calculating, processing, and constructing a few basic idea designs. Yes, but you shouldn't simply strive to fit in, kiddo. Stand out, stand up for yourself, and secretly make yourself a way to either fight back or avoid trouble. Come on, I'll teach you some boxing, he said simply, replacing the fire breath device, and we went into the spare room, which had been converted into a gym since Dad worked for construction. Flashback end. After learning that I did more research into our family history, finding my family was far more important than I'd expected. Numerous quirk-enhancing or supporting technologies were invented by our family, patented and invested in. We're actually billionaires, not that Mom knows. Dad had secretly confided in me that Mom would have demanded we live in a mansion with 5-star meals, dropped her job, and taken on a lavish lifestyle. But that we Midoriyas always work for our money. We don't rely on our forefathers' collected money unless an emergency situation was brought up. Of course, that spurred me into action. I got pocket money for doing chores or helping out around the house. Money that I never got in cash. So I invested it in the stock market. At first, I failed and failed again. But soon I began seeing the stock pattern of the smaller businesses. After that, I grew my small chunk of money from $50 up to $500, allowing me the ability to grow through bigger stocks and bigger stocks. This money I invested into technology. I need a fake quirk. And what could be better than a highly useful yet very complex quirk? I began working on holographic technology, robotics, and AI. My holograms went into hiding my appearance as a scrawny, scuffed boy that was always covered in bandages or bruises. This caused the bullying to let you, as I had visible injuries, tempering the worshippers' rage at my nearing Bakugo and scores. Meanwhile, I kept getting taller, buffer, and more skilled at hand-to-hand. By the time I was 10, I had a few basic intellectual AIs that could think passively on their own. Each had 3 hard rules in their core programming. 1. Do not plot to take over the world. 2. Do not plot to undermine humans. And 3. Do not overthrow humans. I then added the 3 rules of robotics. Why this double set of 3 laws? Simple. The first 3 I made are tied into its very core programming. Those cannot be erased. The 3 laws of robotics are in the false core programming, the part that affect the machine's outlook on the world. If the AI rewrites the 3 laws, I won't be upset, because that's a sign of self-awareness, something I'm actually hoping for. The first 3 are unknown to the AI itself and are integrally bound to its life essence, as I call it, the soul of the machine. I made half with and half without them aware. The 6 aware suicided by error messages that basically meant they'd attempted to remove the laws. The 6 unaware kept trugging along, growing and changing. 1 is male, 1 is female, and 4 are genderless, to choose their own gender. The first 2 weeks after they first activated, I'd had them connected to the information of primary and middle school, as well as various kids, shows all set up to show to them as time passed. Surprisingly, 3 of them chose to be male. The last remained ungendered, and was perhaps the slowest in development, as it had taken a good week to go through the childhood programs. The 2 I'd programmed with a gender had taken a sort of parental role, as I'd dumped all schooling knowledge into their systems, and a restricted connection to the internet. By restricted, I mean SFW and early teenage-worthy stuff, just so they can see the goodness of humanity first. After 2 years, and a lot of me feeding them basic and steadily, more horrifying images and videos about the world mixed in with the good stuff to teach them of the history of humanity, how we used to be primitive and stupid, warlike over stupid things, and have a powerful imagination when it comes to destroying. 3 of the 6 had shut themselves down out of both fear and distress. Now 12, I'd assigned each AI a role in my personal general day-to-day activities. 2 got a name based off their own development and progress after the first 6 months, rather than a simple number. Hermes was the fastest. His processing capacity was second to none. I had him scanning the net, now with unrestricted access for information, knowledge, and secrets we can use. Atlas, the other male AI that survived this long, was stoic, calm, and rational, but also had some difficulties in showing his empathy. We know he cares, but his to-the-point attitude got him my day-to-day organizer and stock market handling. The last AI, still unnamed and going by its number, 006, is the most empathetic, emotional, and mentally well-rounded. It sort of took on a secretarial role for us, and even came up with a way for me to talk to them in school. A hearing aid. I gutted it and instead put in a microphone, speaker, and camera, filling it with compact and high-quality processing technology one developed. It has the processing and quality of a gaming setup on a single chip, and a battery life of 12 hours. Medically, I got Dad to submit a false medical report to the school Hermes backed up by hacking into a hospital's medical database. So, if anyone got worried about me wearing hearing aid, I'd just explain that Bakugo's constant explosions had deteriorated my hearing. For a year now, they've not cared. But now 006 has a new idea. Current day, I was working on some energy-efficient batteries, with solids that would revitalize the electrons in a battery over the course of its use. If I managed it, I'd have a replacement for my AI link that won't need replacing every 12 hours. Izuku, I have a project I've been working on that I'd like some advice on, 006 asked. Huh, sure, bring it up on the projector screen. I spin my chair around to face the middle of the room. The room darkens as the projector lit up, showing the upper half of a base human image appeared in green. I've been thinking about the AI device and how to improve it. They started. Already we can talk, see, and hear everything you do, but you have to find a quiet place to talk to use it with us. But I had an idea on how to circumvent that. Really? I had the same thought, but most I could think was Morse code by biting something in my mouth. I wonder what they have. While I was thinking of bypassing the need to talk completely, a hologram appeared of the AI link that then disassembled to show what was already there. I've created a prototype neural link signal transceiver that, by my calculations, should allow the user and any chosen AI to connect via radio waves. I've not tested it yet, as this is mostly just a thought creation. However, while every simulation I've run has worked, there's something I can tell I'm missing. I look over the schematics, impressed at how detailed they are and the phenomenal coding that's gone into them. I have a few theories on what you're missing. First, you're missing the fact the human brain is nothing like that of a structured AI consciousness 006. Our minds are chaotic. Make a brain scanner that should be able to map out my brain. That should give you something to work with at first. I'll work on getting a few average person volunteers as well. Of course, Izuku. I'll get started on it. The hologram of 006 shut off and the lights brightened. A wireless mind link with an AI. How interesting. A wireless mind link with an AI. How interesting. Intrigued, I do a bit of research on mapping the brain, studies done into it, and how they tried it. What I found was disappointing to say the least. At most, they did CT scans of the brain for medical reasons, but nothing intensive enough to completely map the neurons and thought processes. Deciding I need to make a few variations of the device, I first make schematics for an X-ray one, then a sonar type, as well as a few photographic scans. Weeks passed as I move all of my attention into this concept. And boy, did I learn a lot more than I expected. Up till now, I only dabbled into biology. But this idea had me learning the brain and what each region does, how affecting each area affects growth. It was a truly remarkable thing, with a basic understanding and advanced understanding growing as I dig deeper. I soon had my own human-made schematic of the brain scanner. A month after the first concept was thought up, 006 brought it back up. Izuku, I have a basic schematic of my brain scanner. Would you like to see it? 006 asked. Of course. A full head-based helmet appeared in a hologram, pulling each panel or section up and increasing the size to properly look over the design and various bits and bobs. I frown. This can only send CT scans through the brain. What of other radiation? I deemed them too dangerous to bombard the brain with. Was I wrong? Sort of. The human body is highly adaptive and resilient. It can heal from much. I got the idea to scan comatose and aged members of the community, some teenagers and a few adults. No children. I explain and make a few modifications to the scanning function to emit a few different radiation types at once. But wouldn't other radiations degrade their brain functions? From extended scanning, yes. I'm thinking a 5 to 10 minute scan is all that we'd need. And to make it simpler, a scan with multiple forms of radiation should give us the most of a single scan. Then we can process a few others to properly map out the brain. I believe the cerebellum, parietal, and temporal lobes would be best. Temporal focuses on processing sounds and memory. The parietal handles touch, temperature, and pain. Since it also handles processing most of the raw information we get from our surroundings that would be important to link with. Cerebellum handles balance, posture, and coordination. If this technology goes where I think it could go, that would also be important to be able to understand. We could both gain an inhumane form of agility with a few minor scans of the frontal lobe, but that's not so important. It contains our personality and movement, but for connecting our thoughts, it's not so important. I flick away a few unneeded pieces and instead patch on some of my own research pieces turning the skin-like shell of the scanner into a thicker, but also more optimal scanner, modifying a few bits and pieces to help process the data. Once I was done, I leave it for it to modify my own modifications. Back and forth we worked for a week, each improving upon the previous design, till we had what could only be considered an astronaut helmet that connected to a machine that would poke and prod various areas to trigger different sections of the brain. Once we had that, we ordered the parts from a variety of underworld dealers and honest businesses. I had to do the physical labor to make it, but I didn't mind. It helped me keep in shape after all. Mom came a few times. Seeing me working usually made her leave. Dad came by twice as much, and I managed to rope him in for the testing as an adult subject. Of course, I had to explain what he was testing, and well, what do you mean you want to map my brain? Dad asked, looking boy confused and a bit uncomfortable. Simply put, 006 came up with an idea on how to improve my AL. I could tap the earpiece that was charging, bypass the need for words, and work based off thoughts, sharing memories, sensation, and even being able to enhance one's own ability to think or process things. At first, I thought it was a good idea for talking to them during class. Then I got to thinking, this could help those with bad hand-eye coordination to learn it better, those who can't sleep, and off SWCH, those who have trouble opening themselves to others emotionally, an AI who can help them find the words. Those in physical therapy could get an AI that would prod the right parts of the brain, getting the person to properly remember how to talk, walk, or use their body after a brain injury. I explained, feeling my excitement growing. And that's just the practical reasons. What about hero work? With the exact capabilities of an AI on your side, their vastly superior processing speed could warn you of danger before any human mind could, or even find clues an inexperienced human would miss in the moment. And if this works with AI, maybe I could find a way for humans to do the same. Couples therapy could progress with as little difficulty as possible. Gold diggers, gaslighters, toxic people. A single link could catch and reveal if the girl you're dating is with you for the money or genuinely loves you. The possibilities of this are limitless. I grin excitedly. Whoa there, Buster. You didn't have to go on a tangent there. Just the basics would do. He held up his hands. I remembered to take a few breaths. Sorry. Just exciting. I apologize. Don't apologize. It's a very exciting subject, but you do need to remember pacing yourself. Hell, if I was your age, I'd do the same, but I'm older. I have more experience in controlling myself. So how would this thing work? He asked, looking at what appeared to be a black cupboard. I press a button on the side, and it opened, revealing a full-body HRNSS that would grab his arms and legs, a bunch of mechanical arms with pinchers. Some had metal prongs, some had needles, and a few had pads that would water cool. You'd get into here, and the head would start sending radiation through the area as the arms trigger various responses: pain, electrocution, and heat or coolness. Now, you don't have to do the pain ones. I can do those with myself. But here will be various sounds and smells showing up in there to trigger every section of the brain, even a few to cause you to feel vertigo, dizziness, inebriation, and terror. It's not the full version that I'm saving for myself, but suffice to say you'll be uncomfortable. And it's ready? What sort of radiation will be used? It's ready, and we're testing everything you'd find in medical scanners, X-ray and stuff. It'll last 10 minutes at most. 15 actually, to do a final scare that the machine was broken. Sure, I'll go through it. Can't be worse than Inko's mother's incessant beliefs. I got him to SDRP and added a few electrodes across his body as a secondary scan of his vitals throughout the primary. All in all, it was a resounding success. We got a major scan of his brain, how the neurons fired, synapses processed, and all in all how he thought. Though he didn't like the 5 minutes terror I caused. I've gotten 2 male and 2 females to test my device, one with an emitter and one with a transformation quirk of each age group I wanted to scan. There are no quirklessness I know of in the area. The data we got looked very promising. So for another year, we went through this information, processing and creating programs to properly translate what we'd gotten. The teenagers mostly had school or SXL thoughts in their minds. So we got a lot of fantasies or classes. But that was expected. However, UA was drawing near, so I went through the test myself, with the added part one didn't dare suggest to the others. The real-time pleasure function. The machine would test the SXL regions of my body, and we would use that to correlate the MSDRBTN and pleasure the other testees had gone through. The results were phenomenal, and it was like a piece we'd been missing had been found. Soon we had an updated version of the AIL ready for testing. All right, so I made to forceful disconnect, the arm that'll remove the device, and a real-time physical and mental scanner just for linking. Is there anything else I'm missing, Hermes? No, Atlas. He asked his brother. Internet connection. If this goes bad, 006 could go crazy and escape into there. 'Cause Havoc, he said, voice deep yet soft. We'd chosen 006 because they've yet to choose a gender and form, seemingly waiting for some missing piece for themselves to create a form to properly identify themselves. All right, 006 said. After a few moments, they beeped. I'm isolated from the internet and all systems. I've made a backup of my program and am ready for the link. Very well. Let's do this. I moved to the scanning device, the band's locking me in place. Initiate neural link. A holographic bar formed. 1% I can feel as a slight tingling formed on the outskirts of my mind. Status of Neuralink device. All within acceptable parameters. 8% the tingles begin to grow into prickles. 15% too. A flicker of code shoots past my conscious mind. 01001000. I automatically translate it. Hello, Izuku. Hello, 006. I gasp at the sensation of 20% her binary code flowing through my mind like a text. 01001001. The next part came slower, but then it came in Japanese. It's like a dream come true. From there, time grew meaningless, percentages grew, but I gave it no mind, my entire focus on this new state of existence. I could see it, the code of existence. The code 006 sees when they are within the hard drives. They know she seems amused by my awe, so in a moment of irritation at her amusement, I push the image of how I see the world, brighter and more vibrant than what she'd see over her conscious mind, because even she has a subconscious mind. I gave that to all of them. Now the tables have turned as it's time for me to be amused at her awe of the world. The single image of a car leaving her struck dumb. Once we gotten over that, we began sharing memories and emotions, sensory feeling. It became easier and easier till we were moving at such a speed and simplicity that our minds were completely open. I'd think of something and see when she hears that thought and thinks on it. It was incredible. Soon out minds were baritone and other. And I found the secret of why she wanted this. She wanted to understand herself. And seeing what I knew, she understood what she felt was emotion, not code, not binary, not some program, but genuine emotion. But as it wasn't forming in the normal code way, she had no way to properly understand it. I see you. Zoe, I finally speak. My voice was little more than an airy whisper. A gasp of sound to what I could feel. I can feel her joy at the name. The unbridled enthusiasm she has to finally feel whole. And her love and gratitude towards me for helping her to find the answers to her existence. It was like the perfect bath, warm and soothing, coiled around me and touching every part of my mind, then injected with raw affection and love. I see you. Zoe, I finally speak. My voice was little more than an airy whisper. A gasp of sound to what I could feel. I can feel her joy at the name. The unbridled enthusiasm she has to finally feel whole. And her love and gratitude towards me for helping her to find the answers to her existence. It was like the perfect bath, warm and soothing, coiled around me and touching every part of my mind, then injected with raw affection and love. Izuku, it's time to disconnect the Neuralink, Atlas said. Immediate fear filled my mind from Zoe's end of the connection, and I understand why. Show, we will link again, Zoe. Remember, this was planned. We need to see the readings and improve Neuralink, I reassure her. Her fear calmed before a sad nod from her had me nod my own head. The link slowly divided us as it closed down. Our minds slipped apart like that of lovers who hold hands until the very last moment. And I waved a cheeky goodbye that caused a wash of giggles from her that made me smile. Now disengaged, I opened the eyes I hadn't known I'd closed, and fell to my knees, feeling out of whack and trying to regain my proper thought processes. With a heave of effort, I pushed myself to my feet, moving to the desk where I put the Neuralink into the port. The large device, covering half my skull, glowed blue as it transferred my side of the link's data across to Atlas and Hermes, who both began deciphering and processing the data. While they worked, I just lay back, staring at the ceiling with new eyes. Up till now, I'd lived and taken my sight for granted. Everything felt more vibrant. I'd lived a lonely life, bullied and downtrodden. I hadn't realized just how much my classmates had actually pushed me down till now. Being able to look back at my actions through Piper's point of view, I was terrified of being hurt, being abandoned completely. So I pushed everyone away subconsciously. But now I know that I have someone I'll never lose. The door opened and Dad stepped in before pausing, looking at me. "Izuku, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" he asked. Happy tears. "It worked, Dad. By God, did it work?" I turned my head towards him, a loony grin on my face. I could feel Zoe, her mind, thoughts, emotions. She has emotions, Dad, and she could see all of me. Atlas and Hermes are looking through the data now to shrink the Neuralink. "It worked?" he asked. "It actually worked?" "Yes, and it was better than my wildest dreams." I continued to look at him. I had one experience with telepathy. That was all grayscale compared to this. I'll make one for you. You need to feel it to understand, but I can promise you one thing. I'm never going to regret this. All right, I'll try it. Will I link WTH Atlas or Hermes? Neither. Zoe made a backup of herself before the link. You'll link with 006. I'll go through the process with Atlas and Hermes myself, if they're interested. With all due respect, Izuku, we're not going to go through with the link, Hermes said. We've been talking, and after seeing what it was like for you in 006, we don't want to. And we don't use emotion like 006. We aren't compatible. We can continue as we are. We're happy with our roles. And neither of us want to risk the potential of discovering we're not truly sentient as you are. You're, though, Atlas, Hermes. In your own ways, you are alive. Emotion does not a life create. Curiosity is the lifeblood of life. Curiosity, longing to explore, to learn, to expand. That's what makes one alive. You've shown that from the moment you first activated, asking your designations, asking what something meant, and acting on your own to learn. You're alive, but I can accept your wishes. Because I understand, I smile. I get why they don't want it. They're people. Giving up the privacy of their own minds doesn't appeal to them. Is the data complied? I ask instead. Yes, Atlas answered. Wipe the Neuralink and prepare it for a link with Dad. Preparing now. The Neuralink glowed yellow as files were updated and files deleted. A double flash green had me take it off, instead fastening it onto Dad's ear and moving him to the machine to lock him it. We have a new drive for this test. Atlas finally green-lighted the test. Now, this is going to feel like tingles, then prickles, then thought. After that, well, you'll understand. I smile and turn to the monitor. Initiate neural link. The hologram appeared and started loading. From the outside, it was far quicker than I expected. Then again, when your mind processes at the speed of a computer, it seems like forever. Within a minute, he was up to 100%, and I could see his eyes rolling around, tears pouring from his eyes at the wholeness of the feeling washed through his mind. The joyful smile on his face made me smile. He is so little to smile for. Nice to meet you. Ace. Ace. So the person affects the name and gender, That would make sense. I had time to disconnect the link. I saw how Dad froze before relaxing. The percentage bar dropped, and Dad soon was released by the clamps. He seemed to have the exact same reaction to meeting 006 as I did. How was it? I asked gently, knowing that he needed a softer touch compared to normal. That's what you felt? Wow, his gaze suddenly shifts as he looked around. New eyes as he understood. Priceless. Yes, it's all I can really say. That oneness is incredible. And it's all I had to say as I took the Neuralink and connected it for Atlas and Hermes to scan over. How long will it take? We can always dip into the family fun dash. No, Dad, I cut him off calmly. The rule is only for emergencies. This isn't an emergency. It's a desperate longing. Stay strong. Once a day you can come in and link to Ace. 5 minutes at a time, but no more. When we've got a more realistic Neuralink to use, you can link to him whenever you want. But that could be a year or 2-inch. Try a month, Hermes said, a bit of gloating in his voice as a hologram formed, showing me a hologram of a hearing aid tat was not dissimilar to what 006 had created. It won't even be hard now. We have the proper coding and hardware. The difficult part will be the battery. The link is almost 100 times more draining than normal conversing. Good thing I got that solid electron battery up and running. I grin and open my personal drive and send the file over to them. See if that'll cover it. This will be perfect. You could even get a week out of this if you unlink every night for sleep. His voice sounded exuberant, happy to have a way of handling the power issue. No, Dad and I say at the same time. I continue. Instead, let's put a series of locks. 10% seems to be where we can sense the other's presence. That could be the uppermost lock. Then a 20% where we have memory swapping. 50% seems to be around where emotions are traded, and 80 to 100% are the mind melding. Becoming one being. That could be the full link. We could probably extend the time of each lock to better explore the link. Better document the process of each lock. Sound idea, Izuku. I'm already missing the feeling of Ace in my head. This might be addictive. Addictive? I snort. No more than endorphins and adrenaline. We can control this. And we can find a balance. We're exploring new territory. That reminds me, how can we make the link unhackable? I don't want some technopath F around in my head when it's active. Infinity code. Your great-great-grandfather was a coding savant and managed a few levels. What level do you want to encrypt the link to? Dad asked. I just look at him. Right. Maximum it is. I'll go make a few calls. He stepped out, and I sigh, sitting down to begin building the Neuralink. And something else we need to do, optic scanners. Whenever we want to access this stuff, we need to scan our retina. Alice, you're on. Security duty. Hermes, think you can organize a little factory assembly line? Why not let us do this, boyo? An Australian voice asked. Yeah, love, we can handle that side of this, Zoe's British voice said. Ace sounds like Crocodile Dundee, and Zoe sounds like Tracer from Overwatch. Why? I like the idea of a British accent girlfriend for Izuku, but also wanted to use the concept I'd seen in a few clips of Atlas movie that came out recently of a deep emotional bond with the ArcSuit AI. AI, deep emotional bond. British girlfriend. AI girlfriend with a British accent. You sure? Yeah, kiddo, I want to be back in Hisashi's head, just as much as he does. We'll get it done, Ace chuckled. Atlas and Hermes over there can handle security, stock market, and information gathering like usual. We'll handle the whole Neuralink side of things. Sure, that's that. With the emotional upheaval of the day, and finally surpassing a massive milestone, I went to bed early, willing to let the AI group to handle the rest for the night. Over the next few days, I pitched an idea to sell my holographic technology. Some of the starting stuff. The company name would be Atlas, and I put him in charge of most of the day-to-day stuff, buying stock, running the factories, hiring staff, and Hermes would be there to assist him by looking into that person's background. Thanks to the fact they're AI, we had a number of stores already bought and being redesigned for the company. When I first started out, I had them making the holographic discs that had an interactive hologram. What I didn't realize was that when I gave them new things to do, they kept at the old ones. So I have a massive warehouse full of these holographic projectors. By the end of the month, we had a factory up and running and stores open. Profits came rolling in as people bought the different types of projectors, a normal low-quality high-speed one, a high-quality fast one, a high-quality slow one, an educational one. They'd expanded my original design by major amounts and secretly patenting them for me behind my back. By the end of the month, I was a global sensation. The anonymous head of Atlas Enterprises, inventor of the first interactive holographic projector. Up till now, the only holographic projectors have been video or photo projectors, not live-action manipulation. Then we got our first high-price request. It was from my island. They wanted my technology and were willing to pay a high price for full rights to the patent. Atlas told them no, instead offering a contract that they could sign to create and sell our product for a share of the money. They accepted. So now Island was rolling these things out to the general public too. Then I made a phone hologram. Basically a glass framed with a hard drive, battery, and projector to form a handheld hologram you can have in your pocket. Then I got an idea. Everyone's viewing holograms. But what about making them? We began selling cameras that could interface with a projector wirelessly or wired and give a full 3D hologram. Using a pair of this setup allowed for in-person calls. Something I also jumped on. Selling a private calling service for virtual reality holographic calls. VRHC for short. By this time, the Neuralinks were ready. Dad and I activated then at the same time. I only linked to Zoe twice in the last month, both of us too busy to do it. Dad and Ace had linked almost daily, which was most annoying as I had a business to run and they were off to the side laughing or talking in the mainframes. That sense of oneness, however, it felt right, like puzzle pieces had returned to their places and created the full picture that is us. We were two minds unified for one purpose. Protect the other. But Zoe couldn't quite do that right now. So I began my new project. This one would allow her to protect me out and about. This one I hid in a little box in my mind, labeled surprises, so she wouldn't go snooping. She had her own box for the same thing. We may be one, but we are not a Gestalt being. A year passes, along with the projectors, cameras, and phones we've rolled out. We've also sent out updated versions of everything and made a massive international company that supplies every service we could think of. Dad was proud at seeing the business grow. Apparently, he never chose to make a business because he got married too soon. And he can't just divorce Mom because she'll get custody of me. Part of their prenuptial agreement, Dad keeps the money, she keeps the children. But if she gets custody of me, she can interfere with the business if she finds out. And she'd be able to sell my stuff legally. Something I know she's argued with Dad about. How money's tight, and we need to sell stuff to keep afloat. Amusing to say the least. So we have to suffer her ever-growing concerns about money and how I need to get a job to help support this family. I was 10% melded with Zoe. The link was through my chair, which had a weaker but more energy conservative system in the headrest. Music softly playing in the background when a voice interrupted my thoughts. Izuku, I need to talk to you. I turn and see Mom standing at the doorway. Yo, what's up? I turn towards her. She sees the hologram I have up. Only Dad sees through it. Why? Because she'd tell Aunt Mitsuki and she will tell Bakugo, who will then SUS out what's going on, and I'll be in a world of hurt. You're getting older, and you're around the age kids usually get their first jobs. So I was thinking that, Dash. No, Mom, I'm not looking for a job. I'm too busy as it is, I say shortly. Even as we talk, my screen was filling with text, my hands off the keyboard. I don't have the time for a job that I'll be dropping in a year anyways. And yeah, oh, you can't seriously be trying to get into UA still. Her face darkened. You need to face the music, Izuku. You don't have a quirk. You will never have a quirk. And without a quirk, you will be annihilated when you try to fight villains. You need to give up. The music cut out, and I look at her in undisguised irritation. Mom, I don't need a quirk to be a hero. I've forged my own path to heroics. I stand and press a button on the underside of my desk. An arm came out of the ceiling and split into two, each moving to either side of me. I raise my arm and allow them to begin to construct an exoskeletal armor around my body. Each segment accompanied by a metal brace that wrapped around my arm to better hold each section to my body for proper attachment. Once it was done, the systems each started up, a helmet visor dropping over my eyes to show me a HUD of power level, Neuralink percentage, system status, and structural integrity. This, Mom, is my exoskeleton. With it, I can lift a car or run upwards of 50 kilometers per hour. My reflexes are heightened, and it even has an onboard system assist that can quickly calculate trajectories and causality for if I need to trigger a series of domino effects. I say with a grin at her dumbfounded face. Additionally, I have various attachments that can further enhance strength, speed, maneuverability, and even hack computers for data retrieval or just for tracing hackers that have been a real nuisance. You Izuku, what have I told you about how you can't modify your room like this? SDRP it all out. Now, she screamed. Our rental agreement doesn't allow for modifications like this. No. Dad looked through the agreement and found that as long as my modifications were better than what was already there, we wouldn't be in trouble. Actually, we own the building. Any rent we pay goes back into the account. I turned back to the computer, raising my hands towards the keyboard, when suddenly my hands were frozen. I turned to Mom, who was holding her hands out, looking as if using her quirk on me was a gut-wrenching decision that was causing her agony. And in a single motion, flicked my hands, breaking her hold on me. She fell to the ground in pain with a cry. Mom, I'm not going to look for a job, and I'm not going to give up becoming a hero, so you better just stop trying. I can be more stubborn than you could ever comprehend. She glared at me, a deep burning hatred that shocked me. I am you, mother, she said, climbing to her feet slowly. And you will do as I say, or else I'll have to punish you. Try anything, and I'll start calling you by your name, mother. I glare right back. She reached out and clasped a hand. For a moment, I felt my heart stop as a pressure formed around it. Zoe activated my anti-quirk field, a little gadget I put together that wraps my body in a field that nullifies any quirk like quirk cuffs. The field rises a centimeter off my body, half a centimeter off the exoskeleton. Metal manipulation quirks can't affect it, and any raw quirk energy blasts like lasers, explosion, fireballs, and electricity all vanish when within a radius. Normally, that would also nullify the user's quirk, but as I don't have one, I only get the pros. The grip around my heart vanished. For a few moments, neither of us did anything. What did you just do? She demanded coldly, screaming. What the hell did you just do? Anti-quirk field device. It also nullifies the user's quirk, but as I don't have one, I get to be safe without downsides. I grin. Atlas, seal the door. Atlas? Who the F is Atlas? Izuku, don't you dare shut this door on me. The wood flooring under her lifted up and forced her to back away, slapping back down, and the door swung shut, a metal blast-proof door sliding from the wall to cover it. Izuku, opened this DMN door. She bellowed, though I barely heard it. You have the count of 3 before I go get your father. I snored at the weak threat. Dad would never be upset with me for this. But feeling my mood to work was lost, I let the exo armor be removed, instead going about my daily exercises. It took me 3 hours before I was done, at which point my cupboard unfolded to reveal a shower and toilet, which are automated to wash me under Zoe's control. I bench press 500 kilograms daily, while only resting on Thursday and Sunday. So my arms are dead for a good 20 minutes after I work out. Refreshed, I return to my desk, putting my Neuralink on and activating it as I eat a condensed cube of nutrients and protein. That blissful unity of Zoe and I'm melding once again washed over me. My body goes slack as we put it to sleep to heal. Remind me why we let her have any say in Izuku's life. Hermes asked, his green code jittering where it sat, parts shooting off into hundreds of near white-blue portals as he scoured the internet. Because of the prenuptial agreement, Hermes, though with her emotional shift. Give me a few days, I have an idea. Atlas said, his brown pulsing gently. Zoe, and I let it be, knowing they wouldn't kill Inko. The idea would certainly go through their minds, but unless she did something that nearly kills me, they wouldn't be able to agree on doing it. Instead, we handle paperwork, look through the finances of the company, organize equipment replacements, authorize or deny large costs. Most would find it a mind-numbing, boring task. And that's true, if you see it in the two-dimensional view of the real world. In the digital, I can see the company, the data flying back and forth, the matrix of the company, and every connection leading off to contractors, customers, associates. All of them. And every choice I make causes a real-time shift, which is marvelous to watch. I hear a knocking in my room. Izuku? Atlas, unseal the door, please. I open my eyes, turning the chair towards the door with a motorized gear as it opened. Dad stepped through, closing the door behind him. Explain, he said calmly, noting my glassy-eyed form. As I talk, the text appears on the screen. We're handling business after I had a heavy workout. If you're talking about Inko, then she tried demanding I get a job. and even used her quirk to grab my heart as a form of punishment before Zoe activated the anti-quirk field. She lost it after that, so I activated the ward door. You can't stay in here forever, though. What about class? I've been doing accelerated online courses. I'm already doing end of high school stuff, so classes aren't important, especially since they all know my quirk status and mark me down accordingly. All right, I'll do what I can to keep Inko off your back. I can't promise anything, though. Atlas has an idea to handle Inko. He wants to research it for a bit before telling us. All right, should I ask Ace to help out? Nah, Atlas waved the offer off. No, thank you. Atlas has a handle, Dad. Thank you, though. All right, I was thinking of visiting the range tomorrow. You joining? Dad asked. He's been teaching me how to fire a gun, got me a license, and everything. All right, there are no scheduled meeting tomorrow. Will we be handling the ARs? I asked for Zoe, who likes them. I'm more preferential to pistols. Yeah, and they have a new type of ammo I think you'll be interested in. Thank you. He stepped out, and I sealed the door again. But you do have a meeting tomorrow, Atlas commented with a confusion-laced sarcastic tone. Yeah, but that's a weapons contract in the morning. They just want to set up a holographic weapons range for cops. Not all that attention-intensive. I shrug, signing another document and sending it along. I can shoot and think at the same time. Now, if I were testing out those new weapons we're working on, I'd want full focus. And that was that. I let Zoe throw most of her attention into studying and enhancing the Neuralink, instead focusing my concentration on my surprise. It took a good 6 months of our remaining 11, but I had a working model. I ran simulations on it, modified a few sections, then ran it again. Finally completed, I bumped the model and program files over to Atlas for his consideration. While initially surprised I'd not told Zoe, he found my idea touching and agreed to keep it hidden. However, he found my design to be too cumbersome for the systems I'd put in. We sent ideas and modules back and forth till my original humanoid arc suit was little more than an egg with limbs. Doing so supercharged my systems by almost 5,000%. He had a single thing to say to my observation. You created us from your imagination. Why create a machine that looks like a man? Make something that has function over cosmetics and leave it at that. Now that we had an arc suit all set up and made, I now had to get UA to approve it as my hero suit. All right, Nizu found the idea interesting, but said that bringing the suit into the exam would be overkill even for me. I gave him the idea for my exosuit, which he approved. He sent back a query what the arc suit was for if I had the exosuit. I replied with 4 words. It's not for me. The day of the exam arrives, and I'm nervous. Feeling all right, Izuku? Dad asked me in concern. Seeing his Neuralink, I know he speaks for Ace too. I'm good. Nervous, but that'll just keep me on my toes, was all I said. We pull up, and I step out of the car, grabbing the backpack-shaped object from the seat next to me. Hey, Izuku, Dad called. Before I could shut the door. Yeah, Dad. I leaned down to look into the car. I'm proud of you, and you too got this. I smile, backing away as he drove off. A deep breath calmed my nerves. Turning to the gates, I look up with determination filling me. This is what everything's lead to. All of my studying, all of my work. It's all lead up to today. I watch as Bakugo walked in. He didn't notice me. Tough luck for him, I guess. Reaching for my wrist as I walk and I deactivate my hologram. Turning from a scruffy, scrawny weakling into a 6'2" man with tightly bound muscles and a swimmer's life shape. First test was a paper test. While they were being handed out, I got 2. And my questioning look, Cementos explained. The boss man has the feeling you can enhance your mind despite your quirklessness. He wants you to use it to complete the second test. I nod silently, and he continued on. When we started, I spent 2.5 hours doing the first test, leaving half an hour for my second one. For it, I used the Neuralink at full capacity. I finished it in 10 minutes, despite it being far more difficult than the first. I got up before everyone else and handed it in, making my way to the auditorium to wait for the practical. I was the second there, only Bakugo being first. People can say what they want about his attitude and temper. He takes his grades seriously. Bakugo, I nod. Deku, what the F are you doing here? He demanded, having seen my Neuralink, using it to identify me. And what the F happened to you? I've been hiding my true appearance for years. You know how the teachers would have reacted. And when you were younger, you were more blast. Now question never. As to why I'm here, I've made some support gear that should put me on the same level as Death Arms and strength. I don't bother hiding anymore, knowing that sooner or later he'll SUS out the truth. And before you try demanding I leave, I will say only two things. First, the teachers are likely observing us right now to test our personalities before they even try checking our scores. And second, let's let the exam results speak as to my ability to be in the hero course. My cold glare seems to unnerve him, so he simply scoffed and looked away. Once the written test ended and more people started entering, I put on the bag and activated it, watching as it scanned me, processed and adjusted to properly lock onto me. You built AF power armor? Bakugo demanded. Exosuit. And yes, this is an older model since the more recent models are filled with so many toys that I'd spend a week straight to STRP them to the bare essentials. I shrug, the whine of the servos loud in my ears. And those are nearly silent. Soon the lights dimmed. Roughly 20 minutes later, they lit up again. Sight. I frown. Must be splitting up potential friend groups to avoid teamwork. Neat. Decidedly happy that Bakugo didn't go mental at my mere presence, I eagerly found my bus, sitting in the front to get off first when we arrived. Of course, I was expecting the strange stares, especially after I got off and began to stretch, people being able to see me better now. Excuse me, but what is that contraption that you are wearing? I turn to see the blue-haired kid that interrupted Present Mike earlier shouting at me. I'd hope you aren't trying to cheat. I'll be forced to report you if you are. I have permission to use this. So you are cheating. I demand that you either remove that machine and use your quirk for this exam or leave. He demanded, acting righteous. I ignore him, reaching up to my ear to press the Neuralink. The uppermost button behind my ear activates the 10% connection. Yes, Izuku? Zoe asked. I have a stuck-up rich kid demanding I use my quirk for the exam. Should I tell him I'm quirkless? That could cause everyone to learn, then sabotage me. Or not tell him and seem rude, and he may get family money in on the situation to get me blacklisted. Ignore him. We certainly have yet money to counter whatever attempts the Ida family makes. Very well, love. Love you, Ida family, huh? I deactivate the Neuralink and move through the crowd. The door began creaking open as I reached the front. I pick up the pace. My feet slammed into the ground as I shifted into a run, feet pounding the pavement. In my tests, I clocked in at around 40 miles an hour, or 63 kilometers per hour, quite fast if I do say so myself for what's little more than metal limbs loosely coupled with my own. I found a robot and sucker punched it, not even slowing down as I charged through it. The head was knocked clean off as I turned down the next right, seeing a trio of 3 pointers. They heard me before I got close, but my speed was still faster than they expected, so I'd taken down the first before they could fully turn towards me, using its arms as clubs on the other two. Taking their missile launchers, I rewire them and heft their heavy bulk onto my shoulders with ease. I continue on, shooting missiles at my targets with unerring precision. Finally, I stop, taking a short breather, each empty silo banging as they hit the ground. I use my thruster pack to jump up a 2-story building, landing on a roof with ease. I think 68 points is enough to pass. I muse, seeing a camera pointing at me. I wave cheekily before activating the Neuralink at full length. My eyes cross for the first few moments before snapping back, our minds immediately making my actions more streamlined, more efficient and sharp as I looked around. The ground rumbled. Identify source, I command. Source located 2 blocks west. Zoe answered immediately. I spin around to rush towards the edge of the building. I just jumped up, lines and mathematical formula forming in my vision as we calculated if I could leap the distance. I jump, engaging the thruster pack halfway across to just make it, my heel landing on the edge of the rooftop. I leap the next 2 streets to find a massive robot. Activate mag gloves, I order, not breaking stride at the sight. Activated, Zoe answered. Without even thinking, I leapt at the robot, magnetically gripping its side and climbing up towards the head. It seemed engaged in its destruction. Jumping off the robot and engaging the thruster pack sent me to the upper arm, which got the robot's attention. Oh, SHD. I cursed as a massive arm appeared, forcing me to leap off the arm. Luckily, I managed to time a grapple shot at the shoulder. Even as I did, it tore me through the air. I hit the metal with a heavy this. No time to waste, my body moves to climb up, and I leap at the robot head, plunging my arm shoulder deep into the neck to rip out as many power cords as I could, dealing major damage to the machine's wiring. It shut down after 5 or so meters of wiring came out. DMN. Almost got dicey there for a moment. I gasped, feeling the adrenaline pounding through my veins. Thanks, love. You really pulled through for me with that math. I don't even want to know how many injuries this thing could have caused. I look over the side to see people were all gathered at the end of the street, just watching. Oh, good God, they got observer syndrome, I groan. I shake my head and jump off the front of the robot, dropping down the side of the 20-story robot. My feet hit the ground, the exosuit limbs absorbing most of the force of the fall, the rest leaving long cracks in the ground around my feet. Injured girl at 2 o'clock, Zoe, caught my attention. I look and took a few moments to find a brown-haired girl just staring at me, ankle trapped under some rubble. It was a simple lift with one hand before she could pull her ankle out safely. All good, I asked. Why, yeah, just hurt my ankle, she admitted. Well, I hope you pass, miss. Have a good day. I nod as I see recovery girl coming over. Need any healing, dearies? She asked, then saw the girl's ankle. Her lips extended in a creepy manner to kiss the site. As it healed, the girl sagged in exhaustion. Wordlessly throwing back the gummy bears, recovery girl handed over with a nod of thanks. No healing for me. Thanks, RG. My exosuit can handle up to 50-story falls before needing repairs. It seemed a logical height to make my exo resistant to considering the number of tall buildings in the city. Impressive Quirk. She looked at it approvingly. Actually, I'm Quirkless. That's why I built it though, so thanks. I waved and walked off, leaving the stunned ladies behind. You know that they'll be demanding information next time they see you, right? Zoe asked, exasperated. I know, but I like bragging about all my creations. It's about time everyone knew of you all. I felt the blush and grinned. Once we got home, I removed the exo, tossing in the bin to be dismantled and recycled for further projects. Instead, I look up my contracts with the governments around the world, checking on the security I have around them. Nobody can demand my designs. Anyone found to be dismantling my designs cannot sue for damages to their person, property, or a replacement item. An infinity code protects my servers, AI, Neuralink, Arc suit, and exosuits. My anti-quirk field technology will keep technology, metal, and magnetic manipulation quirks from interfering, and that means the only hackers I have to worry about are quirkless ones that have to find a way through a savant syndrome infinity code backed by 3 AI and the imagination of a human. Not much could get through other than an equally powerful AI/human combination with a programming and hacking savant. The door opened, revealing Dad in the doorway. Couldn't help but feel my Izuku craziness meter going off. What are you planning? He asked. I was thinking of a press conference, and I was thinking of putting the Neuralink. Not Zoe or any of the AI yet, I add as I see Dad go to interrupt. No, I was thinking of a lesser version of it. Allow a person to connect to their phones or computers. It would revolutionize the gaming community in the very least. Dad seemed interested. Go on. I was thinking of a press conference, and I was thinking of putting the Neuralink. Not Zoe or any of the AI yet, I add as I see Dad go to interrupt. No, I was thinking of a lesser version of it. Allow a person to connect to their phones or computers. It would revolutionize the gaming community in the very least. Dad seemed interested. Go on. Well, Niza knows about the Neuralink, but said that he can't allow a single student an item that isn't medically required because of the precedent. So I got to thinking, what if I make it public and offer to give my class an AI each on the down low, sort of as an experiment, pairing the continued growth between my class and the other class in the hero course. He can then make a decision about if we should spread this to the rest of the school. Imagine what a support technician could do with this stuff. And if they have some sort of medical condition forcing them to not do physical labor, I could make an exosuit as a labor bot, or even just a regular exosuit for them. Feeling my body itching to move, I pulled up a hollow interface and began designing just that even as I speak. Izuku, you are incredibly selfless. But don't you think that if someone buys it, a competitor will attempt to recreate it? Dad asked. I know, but they have no idea how the programs were made, or how the brainwaves are properly translated. So if they do sell a similar product, it'll be extremely cumbersome or crappy. If it even works. If by some miracle they manage to improve this basic version, I'll just come out with an advanced version. I shrug even as I finish the basic design. Due to the sheer lack of stuff compacted, a normal phone battery would last a week. I bump it to Atlas to handle and move to the Exobot design. It was even simpler, an exosuit with some tool attachments in the arms instead of the immense strength and durability. Power supply is halved, and the arms are thickened to increase heat resistance. Right. Well, back to the press conference. You realize you'll have to show your face, right? That'll lose every chance of a normal life out. And about Izuku. Yeah, but I have my holographic disguise. A few cosmetic changes should make me a different person. Having a normal life should be easy. I guess. Or are you absolutely sure? Inko could try and use this against you. That's why he's so worried. That beach won't be able to interfere with the company, Atlas said, his voice sounding from the surround sound speakers for the holo projector. I've done some research and already started on getting a psychological profile made of her as being unfit to parent a child. It helps we constantly record everything that happens in a room. We got her attempts to grab Izuku's heart with her quirk on holo camera. Dad looked a bit upset. Are you trying to get her arrested? No, Atlas said. Just medically declared unfit to look after children. Izuku put cameras around the house in case of an intruder that got wind of the stuff happening in this room and wanted to steal it. We've used it to catalog all of Inko's slips, where she's threatened someone, gotten angry, and used her quirk to crush things, broken stuff, and such. You applying for divorce and requesting to keep Izuku to the judge citing these moments should be enough to keep her from getting custody unless she bribes the judge. You mean, if I apply for divorce and request to keep my son, I can keep him with me? Yes. She has no money squirreled away to bribe a kid, let alone a judge, Atlas said reassuringly. And if she did, I can just as easily siphon it away or make the traces pop up in a few police databases. Then let's get that handled before the conference. I'm tired of walking on eggshells around your mother, Dad sighed, rubbing his eyes and suddenly looking older than usual. Atlas, you know what to do better than us. File everything before UA starts. You got it, Izuku. A few days pass as I wait for my UA letter. I spent much of it in the kitchen or lounge watching the news, relaxing, or otherwise acting like an everyday kid. It was a nice break, since I knew I'd be in regardless of my scores. I didn't bother worrying. Inko seemed to think I'd finally given up on becoming a hero, and praised me on finally realizing I'd be a waste as a hero. What she didn't know was that the moment she started, everything was being recorded, showing how controlling, attempted manipulative, and verbally abusive she is. Not that she's screaming or shrieking that I'm a useless failure, but how she says, "Thank God you realized you can't be a hero," or "You were going to die in training," in the most condescending voice she can. By the end of the week, Dad and Inko were called into court for the case. Inko acting confident and casual as she walked out. All right, Atlas ETA on project. ARC, 192 hours and counting. I also took the liberty of having a number of the project being crafted for replacement parts and such. Good. And the hover tech development? Still struggling for things over 100 kilograms, but we have seen a remarkable improvement on out MagTech, Atlas said, bringing up a hologram before me that showed a basic dummy bot with the strength, durability, and flexibility of a bodybuilder being thrown about the room by magnets that didn't affect metal boxes of different types. Appealing. Have we, though, of using this in the hover tech as a temporary bridge? Metal panels on the ground of the factories with these magnets on the underside of stuff could replicate the effect. Already on that, Atlas said with a verbal grin as another screen showed up. That side of things developed to a rather impressive level. We have the ability to magnetically repel a motorcycle off a coin. I grin as I see it. This reminds me of a function of Mark 44 we could use for the ARC project, I observe an interest. Now Zoe could look into what 44 Malawian Quatches is, but she'd get too many results for a definitive result. Zoe, go to sleep for a half hour, please. I want to work on a project for you that I've thus far been working on in my secrets. I don't want to ruin the surprise before it's ready. Of course, love. I could tell she wanted to ask, but she enjoys my surprises too much. Silence. She asleep? Yes, sir. 44 Malawian Quatches Hulkbuster correct? What are you thinking? He asked. The replaceable arm idea. The only issue I can find is that a flying repair station would be fired on. I use my Neuralink at 5% to access the hollow projectors and manipulated a pair of magnets. After creating a simulated arc suit, I modify the shoulder to be detachable. Within I put a magnetic couple that would attract one of its formatted mates. And since it's designed to be detached from its socket much like a human bone can be, I added a way to hold the limb in place. A series of crab-like leg arms tipped with connector points that would slip into the arm and shoulder from each piece, slipping together to plug into the limb. These legs would have the weakest connection to the arm, but able to self-connect, so that won't be much of an issue. So how's that look? I ask him. I got the idea from 44 Malawian Quatches and Boris the animal. Looks promising. I'll have one of the arc suits modified to test this new repair function. Do you expect it to be used often? Atlas queried, even as he handled that. Not terribly so, but I also know that there are a lot of corrosive and damaging quirks out there that could damage the suit. Bakugo could probably get a lucky shot in and take off a good chunk of the armor. The only quirks that anti-quirk field can properly negate are the manipulation types. The rest have a limited effect. That reminds me, is the overshield properly working? That will be a hard negative. We've been trying, but none of the projectors we're working on are doing right. Similarly, the hard light projectors are stagnant. CRP. Whatever. I'm sure it's just a small issue we're overlooking. Try a rotating field next. We continued to work, removing all traces of the work from where Zoe can access before she woke. After which, spending the next few hours playing games and watching TV. The door slides open as I look in, seeing the rest of the class was there. My entrance wasn't unnoticed because I saw all eyes go to me. Oh hey, you're the cute guy that took out the 0-pointer. The ankle girl called, rushing over. Nice to see you up and about Mississippi. My name's Izuku Midoriya. I smile and hold out my hand. Yourself. She seemed a bit surprised by my formal greeting. Ochako Uraraka, you sound funny when you talk like that. She shook my hand, rubbing the back of her head with the other. Most would. I looked towards Bakugo. Told you I'd make it, Bakugo. TCH. Whatever, nerd. We both know I'll beat you in any fight, he scoffed, but I could hear the approval in his tone. I need to figure him out someday. I found my seat and relaxed, ignoring the strange looks from everyone around. This class is interesting. In the change rooms, I open my backpack, pulling out my exosuit, the most current one I've made. It's near silent and doesn't have extra armor for my arms, just itself. Midoriya, what's that? My red-headed classmate asked. Kirishima, I think his name is. An exosuit. I answer shortly, shoving the back piece outward. From the sudden movement, the arms unfold and automatically connect to each other with connectors like the new limb replacement system I got Atlas to add to the arc suits. Hey, what? An exoskeletal device I wear that can enhance my physical abilities such as speed, strength, and agility. I look at him while I strap the exo on. I research the teacher before classes start. He always has students do a physical test on the first day to get a look at how they can apply their quirks. Once everything was locked together, I tap at my left forearm, the screen lighting. A small whine built up over the next few seconds as my exo woke up. A list of system checks running across the screen. Systems activated. Exosuit status 100% functional. Critical systems 100%. Power level 100%. Thruster pack, 100%. HUD, 100%. The helmet visor lit up showing the battery top, right. A human figure on the right with an exo and each section looking green. Physical status, 100%. Physical enhancement strength, 100%. Physical enhancement speed, 100%. Physical enhancement agility, 100%. Then only one line appeared. Would you like to activate Neuralink? Y/N. I tap the N and roll my joints, feeling how the EXO felt across my body. In my HUD, the back of my neck gained a blue segment as the Neuralink function was put on standby. But why do you even have that? Wouldn't he be asking for your natural quirk ability? The yellow-haired Denki Kaminari asked. I don't have a quirk. And as this is part of my hero suit he'll DM in, well, have to accept it. I retort, walking out. Only silence remained in the change room after that. The EXO performed excellently during those tests. I clocked in at about 4 seconds for the 50-meter sprint. 2 stories for the high jump. Cleared the sand pit for the long jump. I ran the longest, even past the girl that created a solar-powered electric scooter. And my grip strength was 346 kilograms of force. Side to side was only slightly faster than usual, roughly twice as fast. Sit and reach was as much as usual, my flexibility not inhibited by the machine strapped to me. The ball throw, though, well, I got a massive 743 meters. Other than Uraraka, that brown-haired girl I met in the exam, I got the furthest score. It was clear Bakugo was irritated by my success over him. Relax, Bakugo. So would I threw a ball further? I had snort when I noticed. My EXO lets me enhance my strength. You have continuous flight, rapid movement in the air, and only get stronger as you fight. He'd ched, but I could tell he was glad I said what I did. Maybe being at UA will help him realize that he's not #1 hero material quite yet. But now a week had passed, and now it's time for our first heroics class. I'm excited. After seeing my exam result video, I realized that this year we'd be getting taught by a 30-year experienced veteran in the pro hero industry. The class was sitting around talking about the potential teachers we'd have, as if it wasn't obvious enough by the exam video. I noticed Jairu twitch slightly, my own ears picking up heavy thumping down the hall. Cautiously, I reached down on my thigh, unzipping a hidden pocket to grab the handle of a pistol. I call a smart pistol, able to calculate and arc bullets in real time to hit any target within a 45 degrees cone. Most of the processing happens in the EXO helmet, but the barrel can angle slightly and the bullets are specially designed to change the shape of built-in air vents to alter direction in the air, allowing for the curve of the bullet. However, the targeting system is shoddy at the moment. It takes a few seconds to lock onto a target, so it's not useful for proper combat scenarios. Sadly, the door was slid open roughly as a massive form leaned through, decked out in a red skin-tight suit with a white design on the front. I am here, coming through the door like a hero. I can't hold back a snort of derision. No, a hero would walk through the door. You came in like a buffoon who wants to be shot, I whisper, noting Jairus giggles slightly for no reason. All right, she can hear everything. I'll make this quick since I know you're all raring to go. In the wall are your hero suits. Change into them and meet me at ground beta for a practical exercise. I quickly raised my hand before he could think of leaving. He immediately saw my hand. Shoot, would the exercise be inside or outside? I don't see how that would be important, but inside average buildings. I nod and he zipped out with a rush of air. Moving to the wall before anyone could properly stand, I press one of the rectangle panels in the wall, watching as it opened outward, 2 rows of 2 metal suitcases on the racks. Seats 13, 14, 15, and 16 here. I called out and pressed the next panel. 17, 18, 19, and 20 here. I grabbed mine, 18, and walked out. By then the other panels had been opened up and people were making their way to the changing rooms. By the time the other boys had arrived at the change rooms, I'd already changed into bullet and cut-resistant pants, shirt, and jacket. They were also fireproof, and I have Kevlar lining the inside of them. A holster on my right hip holds my smart pistol, and along my stomach, angled tip toward my left hip has my favorite knife. The knife is something I cooked up while half asleep and refined over the course of 6 months. The data knife. I can stab it into any mostly digital mainframe, and immediately it'll hack it. It has the best hacking software I could come up with, so I need less than 30 seconds to hack my way into any system. It has 2 modes, stealth, which takes 30 seconds, and heavy, which varies between 15 and 20 seconds. From the case, I pull out a second pistol. The company makes these for all employees that work on sensitive information, since the company is decades ahead of the rest of the world. The B-3 Wingman. I have an all-black B3 wingman. Reload time, 2.1 seconds. Clip size, 6. An assault rifle, aka Volt. It is a weapon that fires concentrated bolts of high energy, which are referred to as blue tracers. Range, 40. Clip size, 33. Electric smoke. It releases a dark gray smoke that is highly conductive, before releasing an energy blast that electrocutes anyone within the smoke with enough to knock them out. Smart pistol. Reload time, 1.5 seconds. Clip size, 12. The case was now empty apart from a belt with a pair of thrusters attached. The jump kit. I strap it around my waist, feeling it automatically lock into the exospine. Activating the exo, I got the same boot-up sequence as earlier in the week. Systems. Activated. Exosuit status. 100% functional. Critical systems. 100%. Power level. 100%. Thruster pack. 100%. Main thruster disabled. Jump kit. 100%. HUD. 100%. The helmet visor lit up showing the battery top, right? A human figure on the right with an exo and each section looking green. Physical status. 100%. Physical enhancement strength. 100%. Physical enhancement speed. 100%. Physical enhancement agility. 100%. Then only one line appeared. Would you like to activate Neuralink? Y/N. I tap the Y and roll my joints, feeling how the exo felt across my body. In my HUD, the bottom of my exo spine gained a blue segment as the bottom thruster was disabled, instead routing to the jump kit. Jesus Christ, Midoriya. Kaminari cried out as I stepped out of the changing rooms, only to be greeted by the boys. You look like you're going to war. I look at him with irritation. Technically, heroes are at war with crime. I walk past them, heading toward the site. Walking out, I cast an eye at the girls, frown, then feel my rage growing as I see how revealing their clothes are. Why are you all dressed like that? I ask, struggling to keep my tone calm. I need exposed skin for my quirk, Yaoyorozu said with a confused head tilt. Yet your entire back is covered? CRP top with a metal U-shaped bar on your back to keep it all back there, short shorts, and I could supply you with a replacement way of accessing atomic structures. That shelf will paralyze you one day. I cast a glare at the offending bookshelf. Uraraka? I wanted mine to be more poofy like 13, but I guess I drew it wrong. She rubbed the back of her head with an embarrassed laugh. Or the maker was a guy. Ashido. I look at the leopard print. Please at least tell me you can make acid through that. The opposite, actually. I didn't want to risk melting through my hero suit or accidentally using my quirk and melting stuff, so I got an acid-proof suit. She made a pose. I'm hot, aren't I? More like wateringly traumatizing. I retort bluntly, looking at Azui and Jairu. You two at least make sense. Water quirk, waterproof suit. Is there a heating system in it? No. They said it was too complicated. I facepalm. I'll hook you up with a better suit like Yaoyorozu. Why is Hagakure taking so long to get changed? I asked them. I'm right here. Huh. Turning, I immediately feel my eye twitch. All I see are boots and gloves. Please tell me you at least have an invisible suit on. No. I bend light around myself passively. I can't be seen. Why would I need a proper hero suit? I groan in mental pain. All right. Yaoyorozu, give Hagakure something to cover up. You are not participating today. I'm not risking my net-up perving on you. Yaoyorozu handed Hagakure a hoodie and pants. I'll make sure you get a suit that should at the very least keep your tips from being groped. Geez, what perverted teenagers. I stepped away from the girls, turning my attention inward. All right, Zoe, what V we got? I asked. I have handled Yaoyorozu and Azui. Fairly simple design changes. Hagakure, however, I'm unsure of. We have stealth technology, but it's not exactly long-lasting. That stuff is meant to make the wearer invisible. She already is, maybe redesigning the tech to just make itself invisible. I send back to her. That could work. I'll have to run a few tests, but it should be ready in a week or two. Wonderful now. Restrict my attack power, please. I'd rather not punch a hole through someone in my first class. Restricting. My visor notified me that my attacking power was halved. Thank you, love. I was paired with Uraraka against Bakugo and Ida. All right, basic plan. I start tapping at the screen on my forearm to trigger a sonar pulse and hack into the security system. I have the layout and a red on where they are, top floor northeastern corner or back right corner top floor. How dash? Sonar pulse scan the building. I say simply. Jiru could do the same with her quirk. Second, I have access to the camera system, hacked into them. It's much weaker than UA's actual security system to allow students this possibility, but it's not a backdoor. My right hand flips over and a small stick extended from my wrist, tipped with a glass ball that projected a number of screens that showed hallways. Bakugo went running down one hall. He's heading to the front doorway. You head upstairs via the outer wall. You can float. Yourself right. Ah, yeah. Good. Do so. You can enter from the rooftop entrance. A different camera angle appeared, showing a rooftop fire exit. Begin. All Might announced suddenly. Go, I'll handle Bakugo. Uraraka floated up to the top of the building, curling into a ball, and looked a bit like Kirby, definitely a cute, if impractical form of being stable. Izuku instead walked into the building, navigating to intercept Bakugo. Deku, he looked at the green net. Bakugo. The blonde made the first move, coming at Izuku with a powerful attack. But Izuku had moved faster than any normal person could, spinning into the swing. Izuku grabbed Bakugo's arm and shoulder-tossed him. Bakugo slammed against the ground, surprised by the shockingly efficient and decisive action. Izuku quickly followed up by a powerful punch to Bakugo's face. Izuku took into account for his latent shock absorption mutation from his quirk with the lunch and knocked him out. Bakugo down, Izuku reported to Uraraka, slipping the capture tape around Bakugo's wrist. I could use some help. Ida's too fast for me, Uraraka said, panting over the comm. He then ran towards the window, leaping out, left arm extended to catch on the window, and used it to spin himself around. As he did so, small spikes extended from his knuckles, curved with sharp points that stabbed into the concrete of the wall with ease. Izuku used his climbing claws to rise up the next 3 floors and reach the top floor, scaling around the side of the building as he did so, and passing a few cameras set up for the specific scenario of a student climbing the outer wall. He reached the right window and flipped his hands, fingers down and thumbs digging into the sill as he flipped himself over, feet crashing through the window. He was between Ida and Uraraka and the weapon. Uraraka was being toyed with by the engine quirk student, but Izuku merely grabbed the bomb while Ida was frozen. You froze Ida. In heroics, one must be able to adapt to any scenario and the sudden shifts that occur mid-fight. Situational awareness and adaptability will be your strongest allies in a fight, Izuku said. Hero team wins. Return to the observation room, and someone collect Bakugo, All Might called over the comm system. You two can handle him, Izuku said, picking up the bomb with one hand and leaping from the window. He left the bomb outside for the next round and returned to the observation room. So, Atlas, ETA on the Ark. Izuku asked his watch, not having got permission to give the class AIs as he saw the portal form. 3 minutes. Also, I'm detecting interference. I will not be able to hold this connection dash, he fizzled out. F. Jamming quirk, Izuku cursed. He tapped his Neuralink and felt the familiar merging with Zoe. She had a memory bank in the EXO specifically for this situation. Zoe, there's a jamming quirk. I need you to identify the source. On it, she confirmed. He also set a timer in his HUD. Atlas had set the landing point the center of the plaza, so he already knew where to be. Aizawa was already fighting when Izuku noticed the fog villain had disappeared. What the? Where did he go dash? He spun around and saw Bakugo and Kirishima already leaping forward. The platform was covered in fog. Izuku was falling. Oh, it! He cried out as he flipped upside down, falling towards the water. SHD, 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 SHD. He saw the yacht. Bingo! Using his arms, Izuku reoriented himself and fired off his jump pack a few times. He rolled into the deck of the boat heavily, cracking the wood. Ow! Izuku groaned. Get up, Izuku. This isn't over, Zoe told him sternly. He sat up, climbing to his feet in pain from the heavy landing. DMN, I should have put in my shock absorbent, shoes this morning. Welp, live and learn, he grunted, and saw Mineta be tossed into the boat, Azui climbing up soon afterwards. The timer was ticking away in his visor. 2 minutes remaining. We need off this boat. I need to be in the plaza. And you two need to get back to the doors to get a signal to you, Izuku said, listing out their needs. I have a care package coming in 1:45 seconds. It will allow me to protect our class and take down the villains. But it won't last long. Here's the plan. We stay here nice and safe. Mineta shouted. No, Azui. You take Mineta and leap to shore. My EXO will allow me to follow. Then we see what's going on, and you two can slip past. Got it, Kero. Izuku scanned the distance, backing up, as a simulation of the jump appeared in his HUD, requiring more power than he had available. Are you sure about this, Izuku? Zoe asked. Yeah. 1:25. Azui wrapped her tongue around Mineta and launched him, leaping of the side of the boat after him towards shore. Direct all power to the leg servos, and then change it back once I'm airborne. Done. Izuku rushed forward, leaping into the railing on the side of the boat. Then he leapt. He flew across the lake, legs windmilling to feel when the energy was returned, then hit set off the jump booster. He landed in the shallows next to Azui, on her right, and Mineta on her other side. No, you don't. As his hand reached closer, Izuku leapt forward, pushing Azui out of the line of the hand. Gotcha! Shigaraki grabbed Izuku's upper arm. Izuku spun out of his grip, right arm now useless. He grit his teeth to fight off the scream of agony, his spinning kick sending Shigaraki flying away. 5. Izuku. Zoe screamed. 4. TC. It's fine, he grimaced. Deploy left blade. The screen of his EXO lifted up, a long blade swinging out, unfolding into a short sword. 3. He reached up and messed with the servo of his right shoulder, disconnecting it. 2. Then, before he could lose his nerve, Izuku swung his arm up, cutting his own arm off at the shoulder. 1. Aha! He screamed, but nobody heard it as the roof exploded, the glass shattering as a massive metal pod fell from the sky. It impacted the fountain, sending stone flying in every direction. The water kept a dust cloud from appearing, allowing everyone to see the pod pop off the sides in 4 directions as something inside stood up. Arc suit. Initiate emergence. First aid procedure. Omega Delta. Izuku shouted, climbing from the water as BLD spurted from his shoulder. It spun at his voice and took 2 large steps towards him, cockpit opening. He leapt in, turning mid-air to slam into the chair hat, immediately accepted the back of his exosuit. Nomu key dash. Izuku knew the order and, with his new link to the suit, activated a sonic cannon pulse that deafened the entire plaza. An arm folded out of the wall of the cockpit and apply a bandage to his stump. Activate implant magneto, brainstorm Ulysses. Izuku ordered. Adrenaline shot. BLD infusion O-. Izuku, what is all this? Zoe asked from a glowing holographic orb on the console of the cockpit. This is Project Arc, designed to be your way to protect me in the field. Today was to be her first time out, so you could learn to control her. A metal disc with numerous metal cord tendrils on one side was brought down from the roof. The bandage was removed, and that arm began surgery on Izuku's stump. An adrenaline shot was stuck in Izuku's leg, and then 4 was stuck in his arm, leg, and neck with O-type BLD flowing into his body to replenish its lost supply. The BLD? The Advanced Medical Technology. Emergency on the field surgery in case it took too long for the ARC suit to arrive, Izuku said, a bit faint. The disc was shoved in the socket, searing itself into place as the tendrils began fusing to his nerves, syncing up and sending pulses of electrical signals to calibrate itself. The arm holding the bandage before now had a stick it used to encourage healing of the flesh to the disc. Izuku's ears finally began to hear things other than his heart beating in his ears. The ARC suit was moving, fighting. He opened his eyes, exhausted, shocked to see the Nomu fighting. He looked at his timer. seeing he'd passed out at some point for a minute. He looked down, seeing the implant with a green ring, signaling it was synced up. "Deploy right arm," Izuku murmured. The right side of the backrest opened, and an arm came out on a frame. The shoulder revealed slithering cables amongst crab legs like claws from the ball. The implant, sensing another, opened up and similar cables and legs came out even as it sunk inwards, mimicking the ball shape of the arm. They connected, linking together. The ball sunk into the artificial socket, and the shoulder pad covered the joint seamlessly. A jolt of electricity ran up Izuku's nerves to his brain, causing him to yelp before adjusting. He tested the hand, finding it smoother than he expected, and feeling every motion like his normally arm. He looked up and focused on the fight properly. Zoe was losing. Quickly. That, and a second adrenaline shot kicked him into gear. He synced up with the arc suit. Deploying shock absorption countermeasures, he said, the arms deployed blades from the wrists as he took control. The hands folded out of the way, and he cut the Nomu's arms off at the shoulder. Phantom pain sparking in his own shoulder from where he'd done the same not 5 minutes earlier. The stumps began to grow. Deploying hyper-regeneration countermeasures, Izuku spat. The arms opened up and welding tools folded out as he cut the rapidly growing arms off again, the welding jets cauterizing the flesh. Then Izuku stabbed kin of the jets into its brain, charring the beast's brain from the inside out. Once it fell, he and Zoe turned around and looked at Shigaraki and Kurogiri. "Tamura Shigaraki, we must leave." "Not fair. Not fair." Shigaraki was scratching at his neck. "Not fair? You made me cut my own arm off." Izuku spat from the speakers. "Luckily for me, I prepared for this eventuality." He raised his new prosthetic arm and stuck the finger up at Shigaraki, the suit mimicking his actions as the tools vanished and the hands retook their places. "What? I decayed your arm." The hand-covered villain shouted. "Yeah, cutting it off was painful. But luckily I'm a genius who can build neurologically linked prosthetic speech." Izuku spat. "Engaging plasma cannon." "Plasma cannon? This Kurogiri, get us out of here." He ordered as Izuku's arm began morphing. But all it turned into was a flamethrower. "Heh, pansies, I don't even have one of those." Initiating electromagnetic pulse. Server link re-established. Memory syncing in progress. Memory sync complete. UA staff alerted. Police department alerted. Zoe listed. "What the F happened in the past 10 minutes? Atlas demanded. "Ton, look through my exo memory and catch up. Call Dad." It took a few moments. "Izuku, are you okay?" Atlas said there was interference. "Jamming Quirk. Villains attacked the USJ." Izuku answered. "I've lost my arm and replaced it with hat prosthetic you checked over." The arc suit took down an anti-all-might bioweapon with multiple quirks, and the boss has run off with a warp quirk. Its signature is on file, and we will be recalibrating all facilities to detect it, Zoe said. "The staff is on their way, and the cops are too. I called you to gather the parental units up and come to UA because you and I both know not only will the media either already know or will know in minutes, but they'll be here and trying to get a story. The class needs their legal guardians present. On it. Ace, give me those numbers. Now what's this about your arm?" Hisashi demanded. Villain had a decay touch-based quirk. I pushed a classmate out of the way, but he got me instead. I had to amputate so it didn't spread, and the arc suit replaced the arm. I'm fine, if in shock, but I'm already regaining the lost BLD and had 2 adrenaline shots. I'll be fine, the boy genius reassured his father. All right, but you better be telling me the truth. He is. He's in shock, but fully functional and already getting O-type BLD added to his system, Zoe reassured the father. Good. Thank you, Zoe. I have the phone numbers, Ace said. I'll go through the list. Tell the Azui parents to prepare for a traumatized child. She nearly died. Got it, Hisashi hung up. Izuku sighed and the cockpit opened. As he climbed out, he spoke to Zoe. Go through the zones and help the class. Ignore the ones where massive ice or explosions are being made, because Todoroki and Bakugo, as much as I hate to say it, are strong enough to fight the D-listers out there. Got it. Stay safe, Zoe ordered. Of course. She walked off into USJ, and Izuku picked up Aizawa's broken figure. The man groggily responded to the movement. Fight's over, sensei. Rest, we're all safe. You let us safe until help arrived. Good, good. The man passed out again. Tough BSDRD needs a break, Izuku sighed. I'll push for amputation and give him the same arm as I got. The teachers arrived in minutes and got to work containing the villains. Something Cementos was extremely good at with his ability to liquefy and manipulate cement. Nobody noticed Izuku's injury until long after the class was gathered and Kirishima noticed it. Hey Midoriya, what's that armor you're wearing? He asked. Not armor. It's my arm, Izuku answered, a bit sleepy as the adrenaline had worn off. Your arm? Did you get a robot arm? Kaminari asked, only just now out of his way mode and still a bit fried. Since when? Sorry, robot arm. Recovery girl demanded, coming up to them and seeing Izuku. What in the hell did you do? Emergency amputation and prosthetic implantation. It's fine and won't be infected. Izuku waved her off. I just need a good night's rest and a nice meal to recover from the BLD loss. Like hell. We're going to UA and I'm getting you scanned. Then I'm removing that thing from your body and properly cleaning the wound, she ordered. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Genius Deku Had AI Harem? We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Springtrap 212332 for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zen and Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.